Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another jewelry making video at my YouTube channel and my blog, keepsakecrafts.net. Today I'm going to show you how you can take some natural materials, such as flowers and bits of growing things that you find outside, and make yourself this really pretty pendant. So here are a few things that I found out in my yard that would be appropriate for making these pendants. You have to look for truly tiny little flowers. Lavender actually gives some of the best results. These are little flowers from thyme, buttercups. These smaller yellow flowers are blossoms from my kale. I'm not sure what this is. It's a weed. It's got these pretty little purple flowers. Or you could even just use grass. This is just the top part of the grass, and you only need little tiny bits. You'll also need some UV resin. Magic Gloss is one of the more popular brands. It cures under a UV light or just in direct sunlight, which, if it's available, is free. And then the other thing you'll need is a mold. A silicone mold or a mold made for resin will be just right. So we're going to do this in stages. And the first stage, after making sure that your bezel molds are perfectly clean, is to put a very, very thin layer of Magic Gloss in there. So just put a few drops. Although it's expensive, this 6-ounce bottle is definitely economical. If you're going to be making a lot of these, this would be a wonderful project to make as memory jewelry. You could use flowers from a special occasion or a certain event and preserve them in resin. So I'm just tilting my mold so that the entire bottom is covered. And then the next step is to put this out in the sunshine for 10 to 15 minutes, and it will be nice and hard, just like these. I filled just the bottom earlier. If you could see that, as thin a layer as I could, and you could see it's all cured. And now what you need to do is get yourself a little disposable cup, and again make sure it's clean, and then pour some of your resin in there. Once you have your resin in there, set it aside for a moment, and then decide what you want to put into your piece. You may have to snip off bits, and you just want to plan your composition. Don't overcrowd. A few nice pieces is better than a whole bunch piled in there. Grasses are nice because they just add a bit of texture, and actually a pendant made with just those is really quite pretty. You also don't really want any of your greenery sticking out above the level. These buttercups that I did, I had to put an extra layer of resin on, and now it's not smooth, to try to cover up the parts that were sticking out here. So for something like the buttercups or the deeper flowers, which has some depth to it, you'll need to make sure that you have a deeper mold. So once those are all in there, you're going to pull them out again, and then grab a pair of tweezers, and you'll be working from front to back. So whatever is going in the front goes on first, and then you're just going to dip them in that resin that you poured into the cup. If you don't do this step, what happens is that pockets of air are trapped in your plants, and you end up with air bubbles. One nice thing about the resin is that it isn't a matter of time for curing, it's a matter of putting it in direct sunlight. So what you can do also to help prevent air bubbles is to let it sit for a while. Let all those bubbles rise to the surface. Pop them with a pin if you need to. See, things like this that have all those little nooks and crannies, they will trap air bubbles. And it's not a real attractive look. I'll show you some examples of my first ones that I did without dipping. So now I would suggest letting this sit in the mold. If you're in a very dusty place, then go ahead and just tent something over it to keep dust or cat hair from landing on it. Let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes. And then once it's done that, then put it out in the sun. Now here's one I've done to that stage earlier. Now if you look at this one, I don't know if you can tell, I don't want to tip this too much, but those little bits of greenery are sticking above the back of the mold. So I'm just going to pull those off. And then you can use the resin that's in your cup. Try not to overfill these. I'll show you why. You really want to keep it below that lip. So I'm going to set this aside for about 15 minutes and then I'll put it out in the sun. But in the meantime, here are some examples of ones I did earlier. You can see big honkin' bubbles that came up. It would have been really pretty. This was one that was not dipped, and you could see all the air that was trapped around those flowers. It really takes away from the beauty of it. This one was really cute. These are chive blossoms, and they didn't trap too much air, but still the air bubbles aren't really attractive. This is just grass like this, and it's rather pretty. This would be pretty like with baby's breath. That was from a special bouquet. Interestingly, these pretty little purple flowers totally lose their purple color in the resin. It must be some sort of chemical reaction because this is what they were going into the resin and that's what it's like cured. So some things may not work as well as others. So here's one with the lavender that I dipped the lavender, but I still didn't let it sit long enough before adding the final layer of resin. So here are these pieces back in from the sunshine. Let me unmold these two. This is the one that's still not done, so I'm going to leave that in there. But the way you unmold these is just the way you get ice cubes out of a tray. You just kind of twist it. And that one came out pretty nice. It actually has a big bubble up here. That must have happened when I first did it. And again, just twist. And that one came out rather nice. But you may see the problem with this one is because I overfilled the mold, I have this lip here. Now you can take a nice sharp craft knife and very carefully go along and carve that down. But it's a pain in the neck. It's tough to get it nice and smooth. You need to go very slowly so that you don't make gouges, just removing little tiny bits at a time, and it's one of those things that requires patience. So what I prefer to do is just make sure that I don't overfill the mold so that I can save myself some work. And then when you're done with these, you can make them into whatever kind of jewelry you like. What I recommend is glue-on bales. Now there's a couple ways that you can string these to make them into pendants. One thing you can do, I don't love the look, but you can do it, is to drill a hole. You can see this one has a hole drilled right here. It's not as easy as drilling polymer clay, but you can do it by hand. You just want to make sure you always start with an awl and make a dent wherever you want your hole to be, and that will keep your drill bit from slipping. Now you can clean all of your tools that you use the resin with, the cup, the mixers, the tweezers, anything that had uncured resin on it. As long as you don't put it out in the sun, just wipe it off and then use a baby wipe or an alcohol wipe to clean off the rest. And that's how you can make yourself some really nice memory jewelry or just some special nature jewelry. So if you're interested in the supplies I used in this project, there's a link in the upper right to go to my accompanying blog post. If you're new here and haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you do for 3 new video tutorials every week. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you'd like to support my channel, check out my Patreon link. Happy creating. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.